Venom's greatest foe, Cletus Kasady, is primed for a comeback. What will happen next? Will anyone be safe? Well, let's hop into the pages of Venom Carnage Born issue number 1 and find out for ourselves, shall we? Alrighty then, so as the comic opens up, put on your Sunday best because we're all going to church. Nah, not the lame church you remember, an awesome church, the Church of Carnage, in fact. You see, we get treated to a sermon about why all of these people worship Cletus Kasady. They say even moments after his birth, he died for the very first time, but miraculously he was reborn. Doctors at the time couldn't explain why, but the faithful believe it's because on that day Cletus Kasady was touched by a great darkness and preordained for what would be a terrible destiny. And well, if you've read any stories about Carnage, you know that's pretty much true. Another thing the cult believes about Cletus Kasady's killings is that he wasn't trying to hurt people so much as set them free from the mortal coil. You see, as far as the cult is concerned, Carnage is a Christ figure touched by the great unknowable god of the void that is Null, the master of all the symbiotes. The cult hopes to resurrect Cletus Kasady, in doing so getting that much closer to their god. That's going to be a little difficult because, well, as we stated before, he's been killed a bunch, whether it was being ripped apart by the Sentry, going to the microverse, getting crazy demon powers, getting inverted and being good for a little bit, and as always duking it out with his mortal enemy Venom, who they call the Great Blackness that cages the universe. Every time though, no matter how great the damage, Carnage would return, but it's his last death that was probably the hardest. After getting lost in space, he burned up in the Earth's atmosphere. He lived just barely, but the suit had to sacrifice itself so its owner could live. The cult risked everything they had to save Cletus's body, as well as to break into the Maker's lab and steal a small bit of the Grendel symbiote. You see, the cult of Carnage hit upon the same basic idea that the Maker had, and that is that every time a symbiote bonds with someone, it leaves a small marker behind. They call that the Codex. They hope they can use their piece of the dragon god Grendel symbiote so they can resurrect Carnage. It works, only he doesn't come out the way everyone remembers. He's not big, bad, and red. He looks more like one of Null's slaves. And while the cult is super stoked to briefly hear the voice of their god through Carnage, Cletus doesn't really enjoy hearing voices. Well, not his own at least. He actively fights against it. Because, well, he could give less of a crap about these people's faith, and if you think he doesn't care about that, he also doesn't care about his own children, for you see, the female leader of the cult of Carnage is revealed to be Scorn. The Carnage suit had given birth to the Scorn suit, much like Venom had given birth to Carnage, but Cletus is a poor papa, don't you know? And turns this whole story into a Greek tragedy by devouring his own daughter and eventually the cult. He does manage to find some interesting information, though it seems that the cult was doing some rather interesting legwork of their own. They managed to compile a comprehensive list of every person on Earth who's ever interfaced with a symbiote. And if Carnage can track them down and take a little piece of their genetic material, he can interface with the great symbiote hive mind again and become unto a god himself. And it's on that terrifying note right there the comic comes to a close. So that was Web of Venom Carnage Born issue number 1, everybody, and overall this one does a pretty solid job of bringing Venom's greatest foe back to life. Cates also uses this story as a great opportunity to build a ton of new lore around his re-envisioning of the symbiote culture, etc, etc. To me, it also kind of felt like there was a little bit of meta commentary going on here too, where the cult of Carnage is a bunch of people who put Cletus Kasady on this pedestal and think he's so much more amazing and important than he actually is, only for it to be their ultimate downfall. Because at the end of the day, Carnage isn't deep or complex, he's actually insidiously simple. He only wants to murder and that's about it. Ultimately, I think I feel comfortable giving this issue an 8 out of 10. It's definitely a must-read if you're reading the main Venom series right now, and overall it was just a nice little one and done. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out some of these other videos I have available from the channel. Then you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Cape Joel, so you're always up to speed on when a brand new video drops. And hey, if you really like what I do, you might want to become a patron. Patrons get exclusive access to videos and content before anyone else, and they can do so for as little as $1 a month. Enjoy video and audio versions of the Comic Multiverse podcast and other videos before they drop here on YouTube. Heck, interact with me closer than ever before. You get all this when you become a patron. And with that, thank you so much again, everyone, and I will see you all again next time.